Oh boy, there's a new Mythic in town that might replace Oakensoul and be one of the best PvE has ever seen in Elder Scrolls Online. Let me show you the proof. Here is side by side, update 38, Oakensoul on the right, and update 38, the new Mythic, Veloth UR Mage's amulet. This is currently on the public test server and is set to release on June 5th on PC and June 20th on consoles. This new Mythic does some really interesting things, and it's kind of like the new Oakensoul, and I'm going to explain to you how it works, why it's so impactful, and why you should use it. What it essentially does, the one piece gives you a ton of pen, along with increased damage to monsters by 15% and critical damage by 15%. But it comes with a big downside of reducing your light and heavy attack damage by 99%. So think Oakensoul with gassed up buffs, but if you still love the 2 bars, you still love bar swapping, you just want really high damage, and you don't mind losing some light attack damage here and there, this Mythic absolutely melts. With this Mythic on my Magpar, with the very simple gear setup, I was able to get 19-minute clear. No, it's not world record, but this was just very, very simple, and it felt like the old Magpar. Throttle down on puncturing sweeps, do huge, massive damage, and still fall in love with the 2-bar build. This Mythic also will be absolutely fantastic for the new class, the Arcanist. Unlike previous Mythics, this Mythic will raise the floor without lowering the ceiling. And if you love 2-bar builds, and you don't want to run Oakensoul, but you want something a little bit more forgiving for light attack damage, this is going to be it for you, coming out in the Necrom Chapter in June. Let me jump into game, explain how this works, why you're going to want to collect it, and who this should be for. So we jump into game here. I have my Spell Power Potion running. Here's my Magic Templar High Elf from Daggerfall Covenant. Deltia from Deltiasgaming.com. Check the website. In all seriousness though, you can see just my stats. And if I open up this advanced stat, you can see critical damage. I'm running some light armor. So from previous videos, if you haven't watched, let me explain light armor real quick and medium armor, the difference and why and where this Mythic will fit in. So we go to the armor passives. Light armor specifically gives you this concentration passive. So the more light armor you wear, the more penetration you have. Just remember, in veteran rank content, 18,200 is the critical threshold. You do not want to go above that. So in most solo play, you might use a Lover Mundustone. You might use something that gives major breach. An example here from the Destruction Staff, Elemental Susceptibility. This skill will give it to you for magic users. And then also stamina users can use Rager Caltrops. That's going to lower resistances almost by 6,000. So you kind of add those two up, especially if you're playing solo and you don't want to go beyond that 18,000 mark. In group play, does that matter that much? No. Typically because tanks are going to be giving major and minor fracture, and they also might be using sets like Alkosh, Tremor Scale, Crimson Oath, basically stripping down the armor to nothing. This is why medium armor is commonly worn in trials or endgame hardcore raiding content. Why is that? Well, if you don't know, medium armor has really important passives here: agility, weapon, and spell damage, but the most important one is the critical damage from dexterity, critical damage, and critical healing. So what you're trying to do is essentially get to the critical damage cap of 125%. Trust me, this will make more sense in just a minute why this Mythic is so powerful. You put your mouse over here, this critical damage. You'll notice that there's a base. So what you do is add your 20%, and that gets you to 70 here with light armor. And then you'll take your spell penetration, and then you'll add about 6,000 to give you that major breach component. 18,200 for penetration, and 125% critical damage buffed. Those are the two targets. Okay, so why does this matter? Well, if you're a solo player, you have to depend on, well, yourself. But if you're in a group, say 4 players or a trial that's not super sweaty and not super coordinated, most likely you're never gonna hit these caps. Where you hit these caps of 125 and 18,200 is in super coordinated sweaty trials, or the mecca, the holy grail of self-esteem and self-importance, Parse Dummy. 21 million damage Parse Dummy. Let's do an experiment to show how this works. So 21 million damage Parse Dummy. Talked about this before, Trials Dummy. This is gonna simulate and give you a massive amount of buffs, which this Mythic will kind of simulate some of this. So here's my stats. I'm gonna go hit this thing a couple times. Then we're gonna get out of combat and then see what my max stats are. Okay, so you can see here, with a Parse dummy, just hitting a couple times, it gives you all of these buffs. So you'll notice immediately the spell penetration max was 23,000. Hence why light armor isn't that advantageous for you, especially not running 6 in a super coordinated trial because you just spill over. Just wait, this will make sense. Now you'll see the critical damage was 125%. Obviously, we did not spill over there because we're using light armor. You're trying to get right at those specific caps. So that's what you're aiming for. So why is this Mythic so good? I'm finally getting the clickbait title. If I throw this on, just look at how far these numbers go up. Spell pen 11k, physical pen 11k, weapon damage massive. And also, you're gonna get 15% damage to monsters, which is basically any PvE mob, and that's not gonna be on your tooltip or even shown. So you're gonna do just a ton of damage just naturally. So if I put this on, and then we go look at our stats again, you can see critical damage, 55%, and then now we're at 11,000 penetration. So on a solo build, or something that's not super optimized, not a super optimized group like dungeons or a random queue, or your friends are not taking it very serious, this Mythic is insane. So critical damage at 55%. Now take a skill like this and get minor force on top of it, which is going to increase your critical damage by another 10%. And you're right almost at that 125%. Now, if someone throws an aggressive Warhorn in your group, then you're definitely going to hit a little bit over that 125%, which will free up some champion point options. This is one reason light armor users should love this, because you're getting that missing critical damage with this Mythic here of 15%. You're also getting 15% damage to monsters, and you're also getting a lot of offensive penetration. The offensive penetration one piece is fantastic for medium armor users because, well, you don't get any from the concentration passive. So essentially what this does for you is, regardless of your medium or light armor user, you're getting the opposite of the effect that you want from the other piece of armor. Medium armor users really want penetration. You got it with this Mythic. Light armor users really want critical damage. You got it with this Mythic. If you spill over in a little bit of crit damage or a little bit of the penetration, you can kind of mid-max your stats and your armor pieces a little bit tighter and hit absolutely staggering amounts of damage. So let's do a little experiment. Don't take my word for it. Let's just throw on what I did for Vatashram Hollows, which is simply Deadly Strikes 5-piece made for Magic Templar, and then Perfected False Gods with 1-piece Slime Crawl and the Thief Mundustone. Very, very basic build. What I'm gonna do is just run one random Deadly 5-piece right here. Let's do some puncturing sweeps, see how hard it hits. Okay, so the first set of sweeps, I didn't use anything else but light attacking and just doing this. You have a max of 6242. 6,242. Let's put on the Granddaddy Mythic and see what happens here. Oh boy, that's a difference. 8,829. Not good at math. After all, I am a streamer, but that's a significant damage. Now, why is this relevant and how can you use this for your builds? This can be used on any single class and is absolutely fantastic for solo play or anything that relies on damage and healing for survivability. So the Magic Templar using puncturing sweeps. The harder you hit, the more heals you get. You just have that old school Magplar meathead playstyle of throttling down on your damage, using puncturing sweeps in melee range and doing a massive amount of damage. Now, you still need a light attack with this Mythic. Why? Number one is your enchants do an enormous amount of damage. Using poison damage and the burning status effect, both, if you look at a Parse, will actually do quite a bit of damage. Also, light attacks are free, and yes, it might be reduced to 1%, but it's still damage, and it generates ultimate. The thing, though, is, if you can't light attack properly, you kind of miss them, you don't like that mechanic, you still need to start off combat and still constantly do some light attacks, but it's so forgiving. Now, on a Parse dummy, this set is not going to outparse Harpooner's Kilt, or his Whisper, or any of the new fancy bells and whistles that people are using. Because you're going to spill over if you're fully mid-maxed and optimized, and you're going to waste some stats. This is designed for people that love 2-bar builds and don't want the super ultra simplistic gameplay of Oakensoul, so I highly recommend we get this on day one, assuming it doesn't change. Well, gang, that's a video. Wanted to give you a heads up and explain the mechanics behind this Mythic, what to expect, and why it's so impactful and important. Stay tuned to this channel for more Necrom coverage, and hopefully June 5th and June 20th, we'll have all the latest spicy details and builds at Deltiasgaming.com. Check the website. Also check me out at twitch.tv/Deltiasgaming, where my mom claims I'm the best streamer alive. Last plug, hit the thumbs up. All right, I'm done. Bye.